Hey, good day, everyone. Tuesday, July 25th. It's, I hope you're well, and we are in the dead middle of summer. Um, and I hope that yours has been a good one so far. It's been fairly mild here in Middle Tennessee, I have to say. But we've had some beautiful um, thunder and lightning storms and a lot of rain. And, that's That's when you come to understand why Middle Tennessee is so green and lush. It's beautiful. So that has been really great. I love summers here, believe it or not. And everybody said, oh, when you Tennessee summers, you're going to hate it. You're going to want to go back to California. Not so much. It's been really great here. I hope this day finds you well. And as always, if you wouldn't mind checking in with me to let me know that you're here, I'd really appreciate it. Hi, Chris. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. It has been a while since I've done a Facebook Live. At least it feels that way to me. I've had a lot of travel this season. It's been super sporadic. My last I've been to Alaska 4 times in the last 6 months, dealing with all kinds of things, as most of you know. But the last time that I went, it was to celebrate the wedding of my niece Katie, and it was a beautiful, extraordinarily meaningful wedding, and it was absolutely gorgeous, like the best of Alaska, the absolute best of family. And so it was a beautiful, beautiful treat. And I've been traveling a little bit. I'm actually traveling tomorrow for 10 days. So I'm happy to be here with you and to talk about this particular topic, right? A day in the life, how to kind of organize your life when you're a voiceover entrepreneur and you do have a life. You got stuff going on, you got family and kids and obligations, and everything is what do I want to say? Not everything, but nothing seems to have a particular schedule or order. I think that is the thing I learned having a child, was that you really can't count on, on any kind of order in your day. And you do your best, to make order, but you always have to be prepared on a daily basis for it to be upended by something. And so that is sort of what we're going to talk about today. And I invite your comments and I invite your experience as well, because I know that there are moms here and dads, and we have a lot of information, we have a lot of resources amongst us. So please do feel free. Hi Terry, hi Leslie, hi Genevieve. So happy to have you here, truly. Um, so it's sort of funny to me that I am addressing this particular topic. Before I really get in, I trust that you guys will tell me if anything is amiss with my sound or my video. I'm going to carry on as if it's all good, but do let me know, okay? Um, I always find it a little bit laughable, that I might be talking about something like schedule and organization because I'm a procrastinator, and I am not great at making myself a schedule. And so it's something that it's ongoing work for me. But I can tell you the things that really help me. And when I engage those things, it's remarkable how much better my day is. And so I will share those things with you. And then, of course, as I've asked, like, feel free to share your tips as well. So I would say the supreme foundation of um, the organization of my life is sleep. Sleep. And um, and I know that that's hard and nearly impossible when you have young ones. I know. And so with that, I say you have to be really kind to yourself, because that is probably the number one thing that just upends a family's schedule and life, is a lack of sleep. Um, But if and when it is ever possible to prioritize sleep, that is the thing that helps me the most. And what's required for me to get sleep? To be mindful of my bedtime. The thing I heard in my, hi, John. The thing I heard in my young motherhood was that the more hours of sleep you can get before midnight, the more restful your sleep will be, even if it's shorter. And so having a good early bedtime is foundational for me. How often do I do that? Not very often. But when I do, the days following are the days when I am the most productive because I wake up earlier. I'm in the central time zone. I have, agents are on the West Coast and the East Coast, but the vast majority of my auditions come from the West Coast, which means they're not due till 11 in the morning. Um, and and so if I can go to sleep that early enough, that means I can get up and I can get to those auditions that are due by 11 in the morning when I am, after a couple of shots of espresso, I'm alert. I'm waking up as opposed to, doing them at night when I'm falling asleep. It's like a much better thing to approach your auditions when you're waking up. And so when I get good sleep, I'm able to wake up earlier and I can get to the things that are due that day. And that is a huge piece of the success of my getting auditions out. Um, and if I think in terms of how we prioritize things, right? Number one, I think you have to prioritize your family. I honestly think that. I believe that. I think that that's the most important thing in life, and it supersedes, getting auditions in on time. It just does, you know. Um, Generally speaking, unless we're talking pay to play, in which there are some really hard deadlines, there's usually a little bit of leeway with agencies getting auditions in at the prescribed time. Not always, but it just if you when you prioritize family, right? And I give you permission. I guess that's what I want to say. I give you permission to prioritize your family. I think sometimes we feel like, well, my job is more important, my job is more important, and auditioning is the job, and therefore I must, et cetera, et cetera. So the way that I tend to organize my workflow is that, just strictly to workflow, jobs and work are always first, right? We always get those done first. Second are really important auditions, if you will. And important is whatever criteria you give to it. Important because it's got a nice paycheck attached to it. Important because you love that particular kind of work. Important because there's a deadline on it that that you got to get to, right? So you prioritize those things, right? So it's kind of like planning for and getting work done, the things that you're already being paid for, right? Those are the first things out of the gate, right? And then you move to the prioritization of auditions. And family needs, right? Family needs come before those. And I know that sounds crazy. It's like, well, how do I then get my auditions in? And if I don't audition, I don't work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The bottom line is, it is a juggling act. It genuinely is. And if we can accept that it is a juggling act, certainly for a period of time, this is assuming we have children, right? For a period of time, it is a juggling act. But that period of time is finite. And that's why your family, your children, are more important than your auditions, because that time with your family is finite. You will look back one day, and this kills me every time I hear it, right? But you won't remember the last time you picked up your child. but there is a last time that you do that, right? It's finite, that time that you get to do that. Auditions will always be there. There's an endless supply of them. I've been at this more than 40 years. I've never, not more than, almost 40 years. I've never been without auditions. Certain jobs come and go, certain types of auditions come and go. The nature of the auditions that you receive changes over the course of time, but there are always auditions. There is a finite number of days and years that you have with your children. And that's why they are the most important thing. And the world will tell you differently, right? Do not listen to them. Really, do not listen to them. It's the most important thing you could ever do, right? Is be with your children. That said, right, we have to do our best, again, to prioritize our work, the stuff that we're being paid for. And however you negotiate that with your spouse, if you've got a spouse, it's an important thing, right? It's like your entrepreneurial work matters, right? Sometimes I think that the kind of work that we do is viewed as being kind of fun and therefore not really work, but we all know, that it's work, and so that's obviously a piece of negotiation for you and your spouse to work out, and how you handle the prioritizing of the actual work, the paid work that you're doing, right? And again, I tell you, it's a season. There were seasons where I was like, I cannot do this. This is ridiculous. I can't make it happen. And you know what? There were times I just took time off. There were times that I would, you learn to say, I can't do that today because my daughter just busted her tooth and I got to take her to the orthodontist. That's it. I got to do that. So I'm sorry. Right. And that's just a part of life, and we will miss jobs. We'll miss out on things. Right. And it's just the nature of the beast. So I do know that for myself, I've come to notice this pattern, particularly on Fridays, right? I get to Fridays and I try to get everything that obviously that's due that day in on time. And then I sort of think I'm scot-free, right? Like, oh, it's Friday and I turned in my things. And then of course, toward the middle end of day, in comes all of these auditions that are due on Monday, right? And it's like, I'm so old. It's like, I kind of go, oh, really? There's more. I just finish those things, and I get a little bit cranky about it, and then I pull myself together. It's very brief crankiness, but I pull myself together, and then I look at them and I try to organize what can I do really quickly right now, right? So that I'm not gonna sort of harsh the mellow of my beautiful Friday. And I don't want to wreck my Saturday, right? But I do leave some things for Sunday night. I do. And some people might be like, Sunday, sorry, that's my day of rest and I'm not doing anything. Great. Apply your own particular set of values to what you're going to do with your weekend, right? Some things are due, again, for me on Monday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific. That's 11 a.m. Pacific, Central Time for me. So sometimes I don't even do them on Sunday night. I just get up. If I've gone to bed, right? I get up and I do them in the morning, and I turn them in, and and I'm off to the races for the week. Trying to think of what else, right? I mean, we've talked about how you prioritize individual things, right? Work comes first, then the auditions that mean something to you, right? I will add In the off chance, doesn't happen very often, but in the off chance I'm a request for something, well, those, take priority. So I do those first. And sometimes I can't get to some of the auditions. And sometimes it's just because I don't wanna. And I know that sounds really like I'm an ingrate, um, but there are some things I just don't want to do. There are some pieces of copy I don't like, some companies I don't want to work for, you know, and and I get to make that a piece of how I prioritize things. And so do you. You get to do that too. It doesn't matter where you are in your career. You get to decide the kinds of things that you want to read for and the kind of things that you don't. Um, I think we have to, when considering our the mundane tasks of our lives, like laundry and dishes and cleaning the house. For a long time, I felt like everything had to be in its place before I could get to my work. This happened a lot to me with songwriting. Um, Back in the days when I was a songwriter, I would do everything except songwrite because I had this sense of like, well, I've got to do the dishes, and I've got to get the laundry going, and I got it right. And at a certain point, I thought, this is not productive. This is not a creative way of life. This is a perfectionistic way of life. And then I never get to the creative thing, right? So that's always my excuse. And so, um, and so at a certain point, if you're looking at your day and you go, dishes, getting in auditions that matter to me. Go to the auditions and leave your dishes. Leave your laundry. Leave your laundry. You know, you you can put a load in late at night. You can put it in the dryer in the morning. You know, it's okay if you take things out of the dryer wrinkled. It's life. Again, and I say to you, most of these kinds of pressures on our work lives are temporary. They're temporary. And if they're not temporary, if you're placing these kinds of pressures on your life, that's something to look at, right? Like I did all that sort of, I got to clean the house and I got to do the dishes before I ever had children, right? So it was like that. I completely did that to myself. Nobody cared, you know, um, whether the dishes were done. That was just me. It was an artificial pressure that I placed on myself, right? So I think that children, the needs of children, and sometimes the needs of a spouse, depending upon what your circumstance is, those things are real, genuine, worthy pressures, right? That deserve your attention. Um, Other stuff, no, it doesn't. Um, So if you organize your weeks such that you say, you know what, during the week I am a working fool, right? And my priority is getting my jobs done and my auditions in. And on the weekends, I'm going to take care of, all the sort of mundane tasks of life, right? That's a good basic structure, but again, you have to be able to um, you have to be able to let it bend a little bit now and again because sometimes, you know, your child barfs all over you and you have to do laundry right now. Sometimes your dog poops on the carpet. I speak from experience. She was not happy with being boarded, and when I brought her home, she told me so. So sometimes you kind of have to stop and go, all right, I got to take a little time out from my day to day, and I got to do that thing. Um, so I feel like the key to it all is a willingness to be flexible, right? And really spending some time prioritizing, like writing down the order in which things matter to you and going from there. And knowing that auditions are going to come and go. They are. And Um, I've told you guys several times before, I, when I first had my daughter, she was probably 3 or 4 months old, just fell into total postpartum depression, got a horrid case of vertigo. Um, my postpartum depression manifested it as anxiety. I was a wreck. I couldn't leave my house, and this was the days of driving to auditions and stuff. And I ultimately called my agent and said, I can't do this for a while. I gotta get well. I can't do it. And you know what? I live to tell. Was it? I didn't audition for like 6 months, and you would think that that would be the end of someone's career. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't. Yes, it has an effect on the work that comes immediately following, right? So it took a year and a half to reestablish myself and to sort of get back on, you know, uh, get back on the ride, But I did, and you keep going, right? It's not the end to take time off, right? It's not the end to prioritize the things that you want to prioritize. There are consequences to how we prioritize, but that's okay, right? We just contend, right? We just contend with whatever the consequence is. And then, it's never too late to start again. Doesn't matter if you've taken time off, you start again, and it may be slow and all of that, right? But it's possible. It's doable depending upon what you want out of your life, right? So that's kind of, I know that's not super specific advice in terms of do this every Monday and make a list and put the list, on a post-it note everywhere, in your house so you can stay focused. It's not really my particular style. I know there are some people who are great at that, and that would not be me, right? So my overarching thing is, know thyself. What matters to you. Um, know what you want to prioritize. Know that your family is first, um, and and then understand that you are in the driver's seat. It's your career. It's yours. You get to make it the way you want it. Consequences follow. And I can't even say good consequences, bad consequences. They just are what they are, and that's what you've chosen. And seasons change, right? So, um, the 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 bottom line, really, to this crazy, seemingly haphazard method, is that you must offer yourself a huge dose of grace. You must. You must. Um, and figure out some way of setting aside perfectionistic tendencies and the tendency to believe that time is limited, and if you don't do the thing right now, it'll be the end of your career. Pardon my French, but that's bullshit. It really is. It is. Um, it might take you longer. Okay. You might miss very particular opportunities. Okay. We all miss opportunities. We all do. What During the first part of the year, my stepmom died, my dad fell ill, my dad died. I went up, to the memorial service, all those things. So for like 4 months, I passed on the vast majority of auditions that came through. I have to tell you, that was probably more than 400 auditions. And that's not to be braggy poo. It's just, it was a busy season of auditioning, and I missed a huge chunk of it. Oh well. Oh well. Am I feeling it now? Absolutely. Am I starting to audition again and be more actively engaged in the things that come into my inbox? Yes, I am. I will see the benefit of that 6 months down the road when things start churning, you know? But we are going to miss things. And so we have to set aside this idea that if we miss something, then our careers are over. That's not true. Not true. So, a giant measure of grace and understanding for yourself, right? And and the recognition that it's your career and you are in the driver's seat. Yeah. Um, okay. Any questions for me? Um, Let me see. Maggie, yeah, you can watch the playback. I'm glad you're here. Um, yeah, yeah, let's see. Early morning VOs. Do you have a specific vocal warm up? No. I, Chris, sometimes I like sounding like a man in the morning. I think it lends an air of authority. um, I just have come to appreciate that my voice sounds different in the morning than it does, late morning, than it does in the afternoon, than it does in the evening. Sometimes uh, I'll intentionally record something in the morning if I feel like it needs a little more gravitas because my voice is a little lower in the morning. So yeah, use it to your advantage, truly. Um, let's see. Sleep, John. Hi, John. Is a major issue. Yes, I sleep is hugely important to me. Let's see. Um, oops, sorry. It's when I scroll and then somebody adds a comment, it kind of goes right back up. Um, Sonia, you're a good mommy. Well, I'd like to say I, that I was a better mommy. I mean, I was learning as I was going, which is why a huge measure of grace, right? I feel like I can say those things about parenting with a 20-year-old, right? That and I look back and I go, oh man, there are things I missed that I wish I didn't miss, and that's why I can say it. I can say it, with veracity. um, yeah, it's okay, Susan, that you missed One Voice USA because it'll be there next year, and there are other conferences, you know, in the in between, right? So, yeah, not to worry. Um, yes, John, I know French fluently. There's nothing wrong with sounding like a man. That's why I don't apologize for it. Let's see. Um, Maggie, 15 years off to do family, and it's an uphill battle getting back in. I'm so determined. You are determined. I applaud your determination. Like you are relentless in your determination, and that is quite admirable. And don't forget to be kind to yourself because you're at it, and it's a whole new business. Um, and so there's much to learn, right, as you go. Susan, if you give yourself grace, but feel like you are getting, but feel like you aren't getting the grace you need, how do you get it or ask for it? Um, uh, I guess, Susan, I don't know if I'm just talking off the top of my head here. I don't know if we can necessarily expect it from others. I don't. And I don't know. I don't I receive it, like, right, like if things are going on in my life and I talk to my agents and I say I can't do this right now, or I have to take this time off, or I didn't do that thing, or what have you, they are, by and large, they're like, no problem, we understand, right? um and part of that is just because they have so many other clients that are doing great auditions and turning them in. I am in a and I like I'm not the be all end all, right? There are other people who are going to do the thing and book the thing, and it's all going to be fine, right? Um, there's always someone who's going to get the spot in the audition. So in a certain way, your agents don't suffer in that regard. And at the same time, I think if you have a good relationship with your agents and they understand you and the value of your talent, there's a piece of them that's like, yeah, that's a bummer that you can't be on that audition, but we understand, right? But I don't. I guess I don't expect their grace back. All I expect from them is that they hear me and that they know that I'm taking time off. I don't need for them to come back all I need from them is to say, got it. That's all. It doesn't matter what they think. Not ultimately, as long as I am communicating honestly and in a timely manner, which I fail at quite a lot. I was on a veil for something this week that ultimately I was let go for. But when they asked my availability, I said, "Well, I'm leaving town on Wednesday and I'm flying." And then of course the response to that email was, "Could you give us your book out dates because I failed to do it?" And so it's all of that. But I think as it regards, how do I say this? It's like we can't keep seeking validation from others. I think is a big point of what I'm trying to say. You have to offer it to yourself. You draw the line. When I had postpartum depression, I wasn't looking to be validated by my agents. I was looking to give them information and I was telling them what I could and could not do. It wasn't up for negotiation. This is just a fact. I can't do it, right? So, and that's why I had to give myself permission, right? I don't think there's an agent alive who would be like, yeah, we want you on our roster, but don't bother turning things in. That's not the point, right? So, I feel sort of roundabout and not very directly answering your question, but I think the thrust of it is that's why you have to offer it to yourself and you draw your boundaries and you know your parameters, you know what you can and can't do, and you hold tight to the values that you have, and you know and the source from which those values come, and they are yours. They don't belong to your agent, they don't belong to your friends, they don't belong to your coworkers, they belong to you. And that's how you define what you do and how you do it and when you do it. So that's I don't think we can I don't think we should be in pursuit of grace from others. I don't i don't I think that's impossible. So I hope that's liberating. And it's also scary, right? Because we want people to like us, and we want people to understand us, and we want to be, we want to be team players, and we want to be readily available. And for the most part, myself included, I am those things. And then there are some circumstances where I draw a line and I go, yeah, I can't do that. And that's learning to, I mean, I'm 61, right? And I feel like in the last 5 years is when I've learned how to do that, and that I'll survive it. Um, so anyway, okay, good. Um, Maggie, your answer makes total sense. We give away our power, so we do. It is deep work, Maggie McMillan. It is deep work, and also, at a huge piece of this is understanding that you work with your agents. They are not the boss of you. They're not. It's again, we're like joining efforts, right? Joining our strengths um, to make something happen, right? But we're team players, you know. And I'll also say this: I had a friend who had an experience being at Atlas where he was getting a lot of auditions. Like who great. Like that's fantastic. We all want a lot of auditions. But he was booking very, very little and was so frustrated. It's like with all these auditions, why am I booking so little? This is sort of a tangential story. But um, but he also felt like there are so many auditions, I don't have time to really focus on all of them, and blah blah blah, and hence not working because they're not really the, the greatest of auditions. And the reply, came back in this conversation with his agent at Atlas. Well, then, if you get 10 auditions and you don't have time to do all of them well, then pick three. Pick three that you know that you could book. You are so certain, yeah, you could do the work in your sleep, right? Pick three, and your booking ratio will go through the roof because you'll be turning in excellent work, right? And excellent work is what gets you booked. Not, so so there's that piece too, which liberates us from having to get it all done, all the time, right? Which messes with your schedule, which messes with the time with your family, which messes with all of the mundane tasks of daily life, right? And that's what I mean by like draw your boundaries. What's most important to you? What are the most important auditions that you receive, right? Do those. And then, go to your day, right? I do it. That's what I do. That's the one thing of all my craziness in my capacity to lay out a schedule, which I can't do very well. I do that well. I look at auditions and I go, I don't think I'm right for that. I don't think I could give that 100%. That's me. I can do that in my sleep. I could totally do that. All right, that's on the list of I'm going to record, right? I'm really clear about what it is that I can do and what I want to do. So, all right. I think I have rambled on long enough. I felt like I had a couple of questions, and I just want to briefly address them, but then I'm going to do separate topics for Facebook Live for each of these things. Um, the fabulous Maggie Peisner asked a question about text to speech and AI, and is text to speech the same as AI, and is it to be avoided? Whew. Great question. I am not. AI is not my area of expertise, and I say this because I hope I work forever. I just want to put that out there, right? But I'm 61. I'm not at the beginning of my career. It is not something that I look at and I go, "Oh, this is going to affect so much of my life." That's why I haven't so much paid attention to it, because it is not at the forefront of where I am in my career, right? Um, Text to speech is a form of AI, yes, because when you do text to speech, your voice is recorded, and then sort of, I call it, it's like entered into the machine, right, which then processes your voice to create all the words, you know. So it is a form of artificial intelligence, right? That is manipulating your voice, and at the same time, I know can take a sort of a conglomerate of voices and create an entirely different voice from an amalgamation of individual voices. Um, and really, what's at the heart of that is the fact that they have your voice forever. And so how that is negotiated is a really big deal. And there are lots and lots and lots of vendors out there who are requesting text to speech with the intention of using your voice in perpetuity and paying you very little for it. And those are the kinds of things that we have to have heads up about. That's sort of the limit of my knowledge about it. I have received a couple of auditions lately with buyers who are very aware of the problem and who are being very forthright about the usage and about paying fairly, right? So I do know that there are buyers out there who are on our side, right? I know that. There are a lot of buyers who aren't on our side. And so I think what I need to do is get a little education about it so that I can relay more and better information to you. But text to speech is a form of AI, and it is to be avoided if it's crappy rates. Hard to know what crappy rates are, right? Because if somebody offers you $5,000 to do some AI, that might seem like a really big paycheck, when in fact the thing that you're giving to them is worth hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's hard to know. Also from Maggie Peisner, why are some clients on online casting sites asking for a separate session fee, quote, and what should that quote be? That comes out of the idea that you get paid for a session and then you get paid for usage. So I think without seeing the auditions from online casting, I think that is a good thing that they're asking for a quote for a session fee. And included with that should be your understanding of what the usage is and then what your usage quote would be. And I always point to the GVAA rate guide for non-union rates, and to SAG-AFTRA for union rates about what session fees should be and what usage rates should be. And then Stacy Gibbs, best home audition habits to be as productive as possible. Whew, that's a big one, which I think I'm going to leave for another an entire live. But I'll say this in a nutshell: whatever habits work for you, whatever habits make it possible for you to get your auditions in on time. We all cultivate our own way of being in the booth, and as long as it makes it possible for you to get your work out in time, that's what you want. So I'll go into specifics on a separate Facebook Live. So those were the questions at hand. Other people asked some that I intend to address in separate Facebook Lives, just so you know, I haven't forgotten you. Beth, Grace, well, let me say Grace. Hello from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm glad I finally caught one of these. Fantastic. Nice to have you. Beth, Chaplin, there are consequences to how we prioritize. I had a great but hard learning experience early in my career. I got a call back for a fantastic ongoing gig. I canceled a family trip so I could do the callback. Then they canceled the entire project. No trip, no gig. I often prioritize work over personal, but I learned that I must weigh the consequences carefully. Yes, that's exactly right. Your personal priorities matter. More work and auditions will come. They always will. That has happened to me too, right? Whew. And then there's the whole topic of, do you take your gear with you when you go on vacation? Well, I feel like I could write a novel about my feelings about that, right? It's so great at the beginning, right? You're thinking, hey, I can continue working while I go on vacation. And then after several years of it, you're like, this isn't a vacation. I'm stuck in the hotel room reading auditions, you know? So the idea that we like set things aside and prioritize time away is, you know, it's a big deal and something that we should do and should learn to do. So, okay, I'm going to let you go. Been on for so long. Thank you so much for being here. I've missed you and missed doing these. I believe I'll be here in 2 weeks for our next one. And I look forward to y'all sharing more topics and questions that you want answered. So have a fantastic week. July's coming. August is coming. And I hope to see you at One Voice in Dallas, the 10th through the 13th. Tickets are still available. It's a really great conference. So, all right. Take care. Talk to you soon. Feel free to drop more questions and I'll get to them. All right. Take care. Ciao, ciao.